Week 6 of the fantasy football season, and here's top 12 defense DST units. I'm ranking this week number 1, the Buffalo Bills. So I know the Buffalo Bills have a lot of injuries. Milano out for the season, Dequan Jones, Jadarius White, Von Miller is still not 100%, but he came back in last week's game. But this week here, a great matchup versus the New York Giants, where you could get right versus this offensive line, the worst offensive line in the league. Daniel Jones, he's been a crash test dummy this season, taking, it seems like, at least 5 to 6 sacks per game. And this week here, it might not even be Daniel Jones behind center. It might be old friend Tyrod Taylor starting at quarterback if Daniel Jones can't give it a go, because so far in the early practice reports, he hasn't practiced. So with all those factors and this Bill team trying to come off a tough loss versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think they take it out on this giant offensive line and have a big ball game. Number 2, the San Francisco 49ers. So the 49ers last week shut down a pretty solid Dallas Cowboy offense, winning that game 42-10. And this week at the Cleveland Browns could be another huge ball game with possibly P.J. Walker starting over Deshaun Watson, who's still banged up and not 100%. And obviously it's a major injury for Watson in the shoulder right now because he didn't play obviously in week 4. Week 5, this Brown team had a bye. And so far this week here, it's not looking up that he's going to play 100%. 50-50 reports are coming out. So obviously if P.J. Walker is the starting quarterback for this Brown team, it's going to be a long day for Cleveland. And Nick Bosa and this defense is going to tee off like they did last week versus the Dallas Cowboys. So I got them at 2. Number 3, the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles have a nice matchup going in Meadowlands. Obviously a place they're very familiar with, but it's not the New York Giants obviously this week. It's the New York Jets. So this Jet offensive line is one of the worst O-lines in the league. Vale Tucker out for the season, one of their best linemen, torn the Achilles last week. And Zach Wilson, he's just not a good quarterback. So pretty much the Jets' game plan is run the football heavy with Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook and hope for the best and work with Zach Wilson hitting short passes. But this week, I don't think that's going to work versus Philadelphia Eagle team. One of the best front lines in the league. A pretty solid secondary in terms of players that could pick the ball off and make some plays. And I think it's going to be a long game for Zach Wilson. And this Eagle defense is going to deliver with a big one. Number 4, the Miami Dolphins. So the Dolphins last week took care of business versus the New York Giants. 7 sacks in that game. Held that offense down for the most part. And now you got another weak offense coming to town in the Carolina Panthers. So this Panther team really hasn't moved the football consistently besides through Adam Thielen in garbage time this season. So Bryce Young, it's been a tough rookie season in his first 4 starts after he missed week 3, but 0-5 on the season's Carolina. Offensive line, one of the worst in the league as well. And I think the Dolphins get off to an early 10-14 point lead and make this Panther team one-dimensional where they tee off on this offense. Number 5, the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs have a good matchup versus division foe, the Denver Broncos, coming to town here tonight on Thursday Night Football. So this Kansas City Chiefs team, defense has been getting better week after week. Chris Jones was a big re-signing for this defense, no doubt about it. After losing week 1, they knew they had to bring him back in the fold, and so far he's paid big dividends for getting to the quarterback, holding teams down, and now versus a weak Denver offensive line and a team not with many weapons, and Russell Wilson running for his life games this season here. I think this Kansas City Chiefs team has a good ball game, and I got them at 5. Number 6, the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens, they've been one of the better defenses so far this season in fantasy football in terms of keeping teams' points down, getting sacks on the quarterback, and creating a few turnovers. And this week, a good matchup with the Titans. We know the Titans have one of the worst O-lines in the league. I know Derrick Henry still could go out there and put up a big ball game, no doubt about it, but with a bad O-line, a bad quarterback, not much weapons on the outside as well besides Hopkins finally having a breakout game. I think after a bad loss last week, blowing that game for this Baltimore Raven team, they come into Tennessee, take care of business, and have a good defensive performance. 7, the New Orleans Saints. So the Saints last week went into New England, and they totally demolished that offensive line and made some big plays, including a touchdown in that game. So this week here, they versus C.J. Stroud, who only has 2 turnovers on the season with 2 fumbles but no interceptions. And this could be a grinded out type of game with the Saints at the Houston Texans. But like I said, C.J. Stroud, he's looked good so far this season. Texans have some weapons. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, but it's not looking that good that they'll play in this game. But like I said, C.J. Stroud's not turning it over, but the Saints one of the better units so far in the first 5 weeks of the season. So this week versus a young Houston team, even though they're playing good football, I think the Saints have a good performance at 7. Number 8, the Detroit Lions. So the Lions going into Tampa Bay. Mike Evans right now, we don't know 100% if he's going to play in this one. Still nicked up with the hamstring injury, even coming off a bye week. And this Lion defense so far this season, 3 games with double-digit fantasy points. So Baker Mayfield, I know, has been playing good football, but I think this Lion team's one of the tougher tests he's going to have to verse so far this year. We saw Baker Mayfield in this offense versus a good Philadelphia defense in Week 3, where he didn't do much in that one. So this week here versus Hutchinson and this good defensive line of the Detroit Lions, I think they put in another solid performance, and I got him at 8. Number 9, the Washington Commanders. So the Commanders travel to Atlanta. We know Atlanta's been playing pretty solid football in the early going, but Desmond Ritter's not a good quarterback in my opinion. I know last week he went over 300 yards. They got good weapons, Bijan Robinson, obviously, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Matt Collins, just traded for Van Jefferson, but Desmond Ridder can't get rid of the football quick enough. Offensive line in terms of run blocking is good, but in terms of protecting the quarterback isn't all that great. And I think the Commanders, they got to turn things around on defense. I know last week they got torched by DJ Moore, Justin Fields, and that Bear offense for 40 points. But this week at Atlanta, it's going to be more of a grinded out mini shootout possibly. But I think the Commanders defense can make a few plays. Number 10, the Los Angeles Rams. So the Rams have the Arizona Cardinals and Joshua Dobbs coming to town. Rams over the last few seasons have played pretty solid versus Arizona offense, even though Arizona has gotten them a few times in pulling out ball games. But now Dobbs coming in. Rams need this game. Tough loss versus the Philadelphia Eagles last week in Los Angeles. But I think Aaron Donald in this one's going to get in the backfield, make some plays. James Conner, we know he's out for a month now at least with his injury. So it's either be Keontae Ingram or Amari DiMarcino, Arizona Cardinal team. But I still think this Ram defense could go, make some plays. It's a home game, obviously. And this is a great offense. Well, obviously, Cooper Kupp back, he looked 100%. Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Tutu Atwell, Tyler Higbee. So Stafford has a lot of weapons around him this season. I think they can make some plays, and that can make this Arizona offense one-dimensional. So I got him at 10. Number 11, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Jaguars have a solid matchup versus former quarterback Gardner Minshew, who played for them a few seasons ago. And this Indianapolis Colts team, it's going to be a slow-paced type of game. I think Jonathan Taylor, they're going to try to lean on, and Zach Moss a lot. Between their run, Richardson out minimum 4 games with the shoulder injury. It's Gardner Minshew. And this Jacksonville team, they've held down good quarterbacks to pretty low scoring for their standards. Mahomes in week 2, only 17 points they gave up. And then last week versus Josh Allen in the high-powered Bills offense, only 20 points given up. So this week here, this could be a mid-teen, low-20 type of affair where Jacksonville creates a few turnovers and have a few sacks. And I got them at 11 in the 12th and final DST I'm ranking this week's the Las Vegas Raiders. So the Raiders last week had a good game versus Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. A few sacks in the game, a few interceptions, and they held that offense down for the most part, besides Christian Watson breaking loose on a deep ball. So right now, this Raider team on paper, I know is not a good defense. I know Max Crosby, though, is one of the premier pass rushers in the league. And this New England Patriot team's only scored 3 points now in the last 2 games. So nothing's going on offense. Mac Jones, he's been benched the last 2 weeks in the second half of Bailey Zappi, even though he's going to start, Adam Belichick said, for this Week 12 game. But the Raiders home once again, looking to get the second win in a row on the board. And I think they could tee you off early and often like the Dallas Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints did in the last 2 weeks versus Mac Jones in this offense. That's a top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking for Week 6 of the fantasy football season.